Good afternoon, everyone. We are working on two major projects. They are going to be separate videos. One of them is the replacement of all the furniture. You can see the new theater seats are here and everything in there is torn out. But the project we're going to be starting on today is installing lithium. We have all kinds of parts that I've gotten and have been testing, and we are going to get started today. The first thing I'm going to do is empty the basements and clean them so that I can get in there and work. Got the bungee off. So this is a ladder that you hook to go up to the cab over. We never ever use it, but I always carry it with us. And what I did was I bungeed it to one of the verticals just to keep it out of the way. But that's where the new battery is going to be going. I'll have to find someplace new for that. So my thought process is the battery is going to either go right up there, or most likely two of them on this side and two of them on this side. And all the new chargers and whatnot are going to be on the other side. Let's start cleaning it up a little bit. It's still a little dusty from dirt camp. So I'm doing a little experiment before I get everything mounted in the RV. Multiple things I'm doing here. Made up some cables, have an old 1500 watt Harbor Freight special, non-pure sine wave, but an inverter nonetheless. I've got a heat gun over here. I'm gonna hook up the charger and play with the charger. I've got that all hooked up, and I'm hooking up my monitor. So I just now connected to power. It's showing 13.1 volts. I've got to read the manual and get this programmed for one battery. The other thing I'm going to do, I've got the charger over here. It's a 80 amp AC to DC charger. Plugs into here. What I'm going to do is, because I'm not going to be installing all this until after deer season, I want to make sure that the batteries are all fully charged. Hence why I've got this and the charger, so I can charge them all completely. So, and that are just for testing that. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you informed. Okay, here's my test setup. Here's my old style 1500 watt inverter with a heat gun. I've got some white wire, number 6 actually, that I've taped up red for my positive. The largest I could find is number 8 for my negative, so I'm actually running 2 to the shunt. So I've got 2 number 8s running there, a 6 on the positive, but it works. And here is my display. It's currently showing I've got 13.8 volts, 280 amp hours. I've only got one battery hooked up to it. When I get all 4 of them in there, it'll be 1120, showing 100%. But right now I'm charging, you can see the plus, I'm charging at 78.9 amps. And that is my 14.6 80 amp charger. And what I'm doing is I am 100% charging up these batteries to full capacity, because again, I'm not going to be installing these until after deer season, which is about a month and a half away, and I just want to store them at full capacity. I have played with that a little bit. While I'm charging right now, I'm not going to do it. I could. I'll shut off the charger and I'll turn that back on and show the display. Okay, here's my display with nothing on. Interestingly, you see the 0.03 amp or 0.45 of a watt. That draw is the shunt and display itself. Not really cool that it actually draws power, but it is what it is. So I'm going to turn on the inverter. And you can see it jumped up to, I'm now a negative 0.46 or 6 watts. And now I'm going to take my heat gun, turn it on low. So I'm dropping 49.2 amps or 630 watts. Got 27 hours, 22 hours till I'm dead. And it's already dropped down to 279 amp hours. Let's turn it on to high. All right, I'm drawing 104 amps. 1,300 watts on a 1,500 watt inverter. That's kind of interesting. My battery voltage dropped to 12.6. Interesting. What is also interesting, let me see if I can set this down. No, can't set it down. I can actually run, there we go. So 103 going out. Let's turn the charger back on. We're going out and the charger kicks in. And instead of 103, we're now drawing, oh, there it goes. Charger just kicked in full speed. We're still drawing down 25 amps, 24 amps. Which makes sense, the math makes sense. So anyhow, you can do both at the same time. Shut that back off. Back to drawing 100 amps. Shut that off. Oh, there we go. The fan on the inverter just kicked in. And that's drawing 1 amp on its own, just for the fan. That's interesting. I didn't think about that fan taking power. Anyhow, that's where we're at. Just doing some experiments and playing. I'm also, end goal is to completely charge everything. Okay. There's the 4 batteries and the new 3,000 watt inverter. That's just an old Harbor Freight 1500 that I was playing with. But those batteries need to go in here. So one of the first things I'm going to do is remove the 2 extra batteries I put in and start placing the new batteries up there to see how they fit. So many years ago, when we first got the RV, because we run so many refrigerators and other electronics, we kept running out of battery. I added 2 new batteries here. They were flooded. It was brand new when I got the RV. I have since then, when I changed all the flooded to AGMs, I just went ahead and got 6 and I put the 2 extra AGMs here. So I have a total of 6 AGMs that aren't that old. They're actually still pretty good, but I got to get these out of here in order to make room, because this is where the new inverter is going to go, and the DC to DC and the AC to DC and everything else like that. When I put these in, all I did was positive and use the inverter as a jumper. So I took all the positives and put them to the positive of the inverter, and all the negatives are negative, because those go directly to the old batteries. So I just use it as a jumper. But let's get these things pulled out of here. Well, I hope this isn't indicative of how this project's going to go. So far, all I've done is put the coach back to its normal batteries. It's got 4 house batteries and everything's connected back up. Getting ready to put those in. But so far, that's all I've done. And I'm bleeding on my left front finger and scratched the hell out of my right hand. I hope that's not how this whole project goes. Blood everywhere. Anyhow, I've got 4 of these puppies to put up there. Let's see if we can get them to fit. Alrighty, we're up in the basement. I'm going to show you some things. For months I've been working on this, designing it in my head, drawing it up on paper, etc., etc. Taking all kinds of measurements. My original plan is to try and put both those, or all 4 of the batteries, up in front of this support right here. But with all my measurements and specs from the batteries, I'm a 1/4 inch too wide. So I have a backup plan. Let's put 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, and box them in. But I'd really rather put all 4 of them right up front. But that creates a little bit of an issue. And see if we can get over here. You can see how close it is. You can actually see some daylight, but there's a little lip that sticks out 1/8 to 1/4 inch on the top of the batteries. Right there, you see that little lip sticking out there? By putting that lip in between the vertical uprights, that gives me I think, enough room by squishing some of the carpet. I might be able to do my original plan. But now what that means is I got to move that bundle of wires. I'm going to have to elongate that hole or raise that hole and get all those wires moved up to the top so that the batteries can get underneath them. So we're going to play with this for a little bit and see what we can get. Backup plan is put 2 on here up against the support and 2 on this side up against support. And that would work. It probably would be a lot easier, but I like having this big giant open space here for storage up above. So let me play with it for a little bit. All right, it looks like I'm going to be able to get them in there side by side. It's going to be a tight fit. They're squishy. I'm squishing them a little bit, and one's actually raised up a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. But that means I got to move those cables. Just moving those probably won't work. The bundle on the other side is what's going to have to be moved. So I'm going to start looking at that because I'd rather, honestly and truly, have all 4 batteries up here. But the first thing I did was I labeled all the battery terminals. Most of these are still labeled from when I changed them out last time. Labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right now, my first thing is to disconnect all the positives and get them taped up and see if I can shove them through into this compartment. If I can't get them through, then I'm going to have to open up a wall between here and here. I was thinking of using some pipe as conduit and put it through. But I got to get all those wires, positive and negatives, which, by the way, there's 3 positives and 2 negatives that need to go through. Then everything else is just jumpers. Once I get those through, then I'm planning on putting a piece of plywood there with all the components on it. The batteries are going to go, no, I don't know if I've got any light in here or not. No, I've got everything disconnected. Battery's going to go up there. I've already tested them, they fit. That's why I'm going to shove all the wires through. That inverter is going to come out. I'm going to replace it. So, time to get started. And we start by disconnecting. Okay, I got everything disconnected. And the 4 house batteries that are left in there, I've already disconnected the 2 extra ones I added. Just get them out of my way. These batteries are less than 4 years old and they're still really good holding a charge. AGM and all. But we're going to lithium. Man, those things are heavy. Whew. All right, one more. All these cables got to be shoved through over there. I really have no idea what I'm going to do with all those batteries. They're still good batteries. Well, there should be 3 positives and 2 negatives. Got to get those over there somehow. So let me crawl in there and see if I can figure out a way to shove them through. This, I'm going to have to take this back out and clean it up and sand it and paint it again. It's amazing after about 4 or 5 years how rusty it gets. All right, let's see if we can shove those wires through. Up there somewhere, out here. So what I'm trying to do here is all these wires and the wires that I just disconnected on the battery compartment, they've got to come through here. So I pulled this carpeting off. My plan is to cut a hole in this wood here and put in a pipe that I can feed all those wires through. But I think I'm going to have to take all my solar wires off first. These are my wires from the solar. I think I'm going to have to take those off in order to get a little bit of room and not have to worry about cutting anything. So let me get those wires disconnected. Well, I don't know if you guys have figured it out or not yet, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just doing this as I go forward, trying to figure out what I'm doing. I'm working on each step where I want to do disconnect the batteries. Okay, got the batteries disconnected. Now what do I want to do? Shove them through. Okay, well, let's shove them through. In order to shove them through, I have to cut a hole. So I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go. These are my circuit breakers for my solar. They're 40 amp circuit breakers because I got a 40 amp solar controller. And these are 40 amp circuit breakers. Probably ought to trip them just because we can. Okay. All right. And I hope I'm going the right way. When I cut through here, I'm not sure what's on the other side of the wall in the battery compartment. I probably should figure that out. I may end up having to punch the hole up there. Let me go crawl under there. It's difficult because of the battery tray to see where all these wires come out. And see if I need to adjust where do my hole. Okay, I just crawled up through the bottom of the battery tray. It was not easy to get in there. I cannot go up. My original plan was to cut a big hole here, but 2 inches down is steel I-beam. That screw right there is going into steel down to about there. I can't come too far that way either because that's where the second wall kicks into place. But from what I just saw, it looks like I might be able to cut out this way and down, come over about 2 inches and down about 2 inches, just to that side of this piece of conduit. And I'll be able to get all my wires through. I really wanted to put them in some sort of fancy pipe to protect them, but I'm not seeing that happen. So what I'm going to do, I had to go get electricity. I'm going to try and cut here, here, and here. All right, let me go get some electricity. So I took my oscillating saw and cut out a little section on the hole that was already there. After I feed all my wires through, I will reseal that. I have also removed the inverter. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of dark without the lights. But I've got the inverter removed. Now I've got to start sorting out this tangled mess of wires and feed my wires from the battery compartment into the basement, which will be where the new batteries are. So sorry I wasn't able to film the cutting of that, but I'm kind of like laying in the basement and using one hand to hold myself up. So anyhow, gonna keep going on. Tool that comes in handy. It's a 50-foot fish tape. I'm going to shove that end through that hole, put the wires on that I want to bring back and pull them back through. Hopefully I'll get all the wires from the basement or the old battery compartment into this basement today. All right, this is turning out to be a pain in the butt, but I've got all the wires that connected to the batteries in the battery compartment fished through and in here now. One of them is going to be really short and I may end up having to splice that. I looked at the other end to try and unwire it and just add new wire, but that's not going to happen. But anyhow, they're all up here. I've got the inverter pulled. My next step is to take that heavy duty wire, which I came through on this side instead of over there, and tie it up so it doesn't interfere with the slide, and the slide doesn't interfere with that. And that wire is actually getting the switch for the BIM, so I can disconnect the BIM or connect the BIM when I want. So that's where we're at. I think I'm going to call it done for the day. All right, so I got everything pulled out, all the old batteries, the old inverter, everything. This is the layout I'm kind of thinking I'm going to be doing. except the inverter is going to be mounted on the sidewall. I'm going to cut this piece of plywood and mount that inside, and I'll put my chargers accordingly. I just reused some of the old battery cables that were on the old batteries, so I didn't have to do a whole lot of work there. This is the shunt, and the new batteries are going to come in, connect directly to here, and then all the other stuff is going to connect on this side to go out. That's my plan right now, but there's so many wires inside the basement that's going to be very difficult to figure out. But first thing I got to do is mount this. This is the biggest, heaviest thing and needs the most airspace. This guy needs 12 inches of air on both sides. So I'm going to get him mounted. Once I get him mounted where I know he's got good airflow, I'll pull all the wires up out of the way and then cut the plywood and start mounting this stuff. So that's the plan. So this is the board that I'm going to mount everything on. I've cut it down to about 3 inches higher than the pass-through side of the basement. And this is going to have mounted on it the DC to DC. It's going to have mounted on it the AC to DC, and then my 4 bus bars with my shunt right over here. But what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and paint it so it matches the carpet inside the basement, so it looks pretty. Now the question is, do you want me to leave this camera running so you can watch paint dry, or is watching paint dry kind of boring? Anyhow, I will fire this back up when I start mounting things. So while the paint is drying, I am sliding the batteries in. Going to get these in there. It's going to be difficult to bolt them on, but I don't want to be trying to push them with wires on them, so I'm going to have to make all those cables yet too. But we're going to get them in there, get the measurements for the cables, make the cables. I also got to build brackets to hold them in place. So working on one thing at a time. All right, got all 4 batteries in there. Those things are heavy. I need to build a couple of small little wood brackets on both sides so that they don't slide. Not that they're going to slide, they're in there pretty tight. I got all the terminals in the middle. That way all my cable lengths will be exactly the same and I'm not just coiling things up. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to start making some cables here as soon as I get that plywood in there when it's completely dry. Alright, I'm just doing a quick dry fit. The board is dry enough that I can handle it. So I'm trying to do a quick dry fit on where everything's going to go. Well, I'm definitely going to have to move those way over there. And then the AC to DC and the DC to DC. Or swap them, 6 1/2 dozen the other. And the inverter will be down here. I might be able to cut the board down a little bit shorter, but I kind of like it a little bit longer. I think I can put these a little higher. The battery cables are going to be, I don't know if you can see it. The battery cables are going to be coming over the top. All the batteries are back over on that side of that pole there. So all the positive and all the negatives are going to be coming over the top here. I'll put something there to keep them from rubbing. And then they'll go right into that. And then everything else hooks up onto the bottom. So we're getting there. This is taking me a lot longer than I thought it would. It's a lot more complicated and just, I mean, it's a mess. Look at all those wires. That's just, it's ridiculous. And the bundles. That big giant loop of wires. That big giant loop of wires is all the same wire, just curled up. Actually, I think it's 2 wires. Just looped over and over and over again and tie wrapped because they were too lazy to cut them to the proper length. I don't know, it's just messy. Anyhow, we're working on it still, slowly but surely. So I placed my board in the RV in the basement and decided I want to cut a little notch out here for some of the wires to come in. This is going to be my negative terminals, the 4 negatives from the battery there, positives from the batteries there. That way they all stay the same length, and then everything else is going to hook up down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these things mounted. Let's see if we can get this set up. I kind of placed them where I wanted them when I had it in the basement. 3 1/4, not quite 3 1/4. There we go. Let's get them mounted. All right, well, you don't need to watch me. Okay, so I took some measurements, decided how I'm gonna lay it out. I cut about 5 inches off of my painted plywood so I don't take up so much basement space. And I'm just now screwing these components down. We'll let that run for a minute. I ran to Lowe's and bought some stainless steel. Not that I need stainless steel, but I needed a 5/8 inch. And I have made the executive decision on where they're going in. Bad design here by Lipro. The screw holes for mounting are directly underneath the wires on the front and the bottom. The 110 coming in and the DC 12 volt coming in. I'm not sure I'll be able to get my screw gun or even a regular screwdriver in there. Definitely going in on an angle. Okay. Now my DC to DC. And making sure everything's square just for aesthetic purposes. Should give me about 5 inches. The screws that came with the DC to DC, nice black ones, but I don't think I'm going to use them. I'm going to go ahead and use my stainless ones so that they match, so that everything matches. Oh yeah. Well, my barn door is open. My neighbor, Mr. Carl, saw that it was open. He's on his way over. So when I get this mounted, I will go take the whole board and put it in the basement and start wiring it up. Actually, I'll probably do some wiring here first. Go ahead and shut that off. Alright, here's my board. I've temporarily got it up in there. I've got the DC to DC mounted, the AC to DC mounted, my bus bars. The battery is going to come over the top, go there, and then everything else is going to come through and hook up on the bottom. I just put in 2 screws for right now to hold it in place, because before I start cutting and crimping wire, I want to get the battery cables made first, because they all need to be exactly the same length. And I don't know if you can see it, but the batteries are back here. And they're going to go up and over there. So let me go cut some cables and make the battery cables next. Okay, I think we're going to call that a wrap at this point. Got everything in there. I need to make all my cables and wires yet. At least I've got stuff mounted. I'm gonna cut it here because this is going to end up being more than one video. There's a lot of information here and a lot of time-consuming steps that need to be done. So we're just going to cut this off right here, and we'll start making cables and getting things wired up in the next video. So appreciate you sticking around. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe. And we'll finish this lithium project in the next video, and then hopefully we'll be done in time to go to Alaska in April. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.